Well, hello everybody, and welcome to TFT Tinfoil Talk. And we're going to be diving into Space 2 as requested, or I don't know, maybe complained about. But here it is. And of course, you guys see that it's titled E equals MC squared, and we're about to debunk Einstein. So strap in, baby. All right. But
Mm.
other than the highlights of today, which we'll get into momentarily, very happy to have you guys here. Of course, always excited starting a new week here on Fanspeak. We got a lot of cool things we're going to do this week, and I'm excited. I'm ready to go, man. I'm all riled up. I've been cooped up in the house here for a while, and you know what that does, stir craziness. But nevertheless, of course, we got a couple of our standard panelists here, and they're going to give you their insight and their ideas, quacky or not, doesn't matter. Of course, first is the most amazing creator of three-dimensional things, Model Three.
Oh, hi.
Hi, how
How
are
you doing
you?
today?
I'm doing great,
Good.
dude. I mean, it's a beautifully sunny day with the absolute perfect temperature. I got a nice fresh cup of hot coffee sitting right here next to me, and I'm talking to friends, man. I mean, come on. That's awesome.
I got my coffee brewing. We had nice cool day today. It was 71 yesterday, though.
Yeah, yeah.
That's very warm.
Oh, was it? But I don't know. I guess we're probably a similar temperature. But it's just perfect. It's a perfect, gorgeous morning. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning for me, of course. But it's a beautiful looking day, and which is good because I got a lot of work to do today. I got a full day. But you know, that's normal. But of course, we're also joined, ripping across the cosmos, riding upon electrical Birkeland currents, striking down all those who whinge and whine as he falls into the atmosphere. Along his electrical currents, he declares Einstein was a hack. It is Thundero.
He knows nothing about light. He knows nothing about the
Nothing.
speed of it.
Nothing.
Nothing. It's all nonsense.
Now, of course, guys, we're going to be getting into space too. We talk about whatever you want. There's a lot of things we can talk about. We can talk about monuments of Mars. We can talk about alien spaceships, all kind of stuff. And I will play the little worker here, and I'll put up any kind of imagery or what have you that you guys want to chat about. Me personally, I'm going to be talking about mainly black holes. Actually, is what I'm going to be on about, and how we get to the concept of them. But you know, we'll get into that shortly. I do want to do a little bit of catch up every week because we do have I don't know, a global pandemic happening
Little one. Yeah,
a little bit.
little bit.
So I kind of want to catch up, make sure everyone's okay. We're kind of become a little bit of a family over here, so a little bit concerned with you guys. So let's start with the model. Now, model here lives in the Antarctic, so he should be fine.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
how's it going in your
No,
part
you
of the
know
world?
what? You know what happened today?
Yeah.
Very strange. I had a fairly large client call me on a Sunday
Uh-huh.
and ask me how fast I could design a medical mask out of silicone that can be made in anyone's garage.
Well, there you go. That's not a bad
And
idea, dude.
not to be doing that, but so simple that these people can, in communities can get together and make masks for their hospitals. So that's what I've been doing today. I've been designing a medical device.
That's cool, dude. I like that. See, that's the American way. That's the go get 'em, you know?
That's right. I'm not afraid of no stinking virus.
No, no fear, no fear. I do see over here Walter Garvey says, "Hope the fam is okay, Chester." Yeah, no, my family's fine. We here in Japan, I mean, knock wood, of course, but we seemingly have got this thing under our foot. We get the occasional new case will pop up here or there, but it's completely under control as far as mass blooming or explosions of cases, and that's the real threat, right? I mean, because unless you're really old with lots of near death anyway, if you get to the hospital, you're pretty good shape, right? The problem is not having enough beds, not having enough supplies. That's the issue, right? And we don't have that in Japan, so everyone's getting really good treatment, which is why we have such a low death rate, and which is below what we're 0.03% here or something like that. Ridiculous. And we have so little numbers. Most of those numbers you see for Japan, of course, were on that Diamond Princess cruise ship. Yeah, so I mean, of course, everyone's very vigilant, but it looks like we're on the other side of this. Hopefully, once again, knock wood. But I hope your families are doing well. And it kind of comes back, guys. I talked about this a couple of times, and now it's been confirmed. I actually got lucky. I guess lucky, because I said I felt like this virus was not one virus; that there were different strains going on, and now, of course, that's been proven. In Wuhan, the original virus they're calling S, and then the one that most of the world's got they're calling L. The COVID-19 S and L. But oh, that is so perfectly a perfect joke. I didn't even mean to
It
make.
is.
Yeah, it's perfect. But anyway, but I think Europe is getting hit with the S, and that's why we're looking 8 to 12% more morbidity in Europe. What? I mean, other places that are getting it are under 1%, right? It's of course it's sad, but it's not that radical a morbidity away from the standard flu. But in Europe, it's way high. That's really high, dude. 8%. In some cases, they're creeping toward 12%, like in Italy. That's bad, dude. That's really bad.
Well, I heard a very interesting thing about Italy.
Hmm.
A lot of Italian factories over the last decade have been sold off to Chinese interests,
Oh yeah,
and in turn, the
sure.
Chinese brought in about 200,000 workers
Yep. Yep.
to work these textile factories and things like that. So,
Yeah, Thunder was just talking about that, dude. Yeah. And
Yeah.
of course,
oh
Northern
well,
keep in mind to
Northern
fight the
China or Northern Italy is practically a province of China at
yeah,
this point. There's so many Chinese people living there. It's silly. That's one of the reasons why it started in Italy really slowly compared to a lot of places, believe it or not, because a lot of the people were bringing it from China when they would go home for the Chinese New Year before they shut everything down, and then
yeah,
they'd come back to Italy where they live, and they were carriers and they
yeah.
didn't know it.
That's right. Yeah, and of course, do keep in mind that many places in Europe, Italy as well, they were fighting against the racism because you got to understand that when Trump first called out, what January was it, that he closed the borders to China, right? And
Hmm.
everyone was these are racist, and of course the Europeans had to fight against the racism of Trump, and they came up with in Italy particularly they come up with the Hug a Chinese Day. Hmm. Yeah.
well, there's
Now,
another interesting thing about China too, and the way that China is categorizing deaths. I read about this the other day, like probably midweek, that in Italy right now, anyone that dies of anything that currently has the virus, it's being classified as a coronavirus death.
of course,
So,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
if someone already has their, some condition that they're gonna die from, probably, if the virus kills them, they're classifying it as a. So it is kind of inflating their numbers.
Oh, sure. And on the other side, China is deflating it. They say we have no new
Mhm.
cases. We've defeated the coronavirus. Yet we have video here in Japan anyway, from Wuhan, Hubei, the Hubei province, that of lines that are kilometers long of people trying to get in the hospitals. Yeah, but there's no new cases though. So
Well, and people in China are saying 7, 8 million dead,
oh yeah,
opposed to
no,
the
the number
numbers
is
that they're.
huge. The number is huge. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, I
Especially,
think a lot of the dead in China, maybe not even the majority, but a significant number you find out eventually because it always gets out, was from the quarantine and the actions they took to try and stop the virus more
Sure,
than the
absolutely.
virus itself because they were
yeah.
And
so
maybe a couple of good
ridiculously over the top.
opportunities to get rid of a few people here and there that were causing problems.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's going on. But I'm curious when this is all said and done, is China going to be held accountable? I mean, because we have statistics showing that if China was honest from the beginning, we'd be looking at 5% of what we have now. So that means 95% of all the death, all of the loss of business, all of the loss of money, all of that is because China lied, right? So are we
Hmm.
Well,
going to hold them accountable for that?
how do you hold China accountable though, and not hold the citizens accountable?
Oh, no,
You know what I mean?
I agree. I say we blockade the country and not let anything in and out until they have a revolution and take back their country and put democracy in place. I agree. I think we should blockade them and let them suffer.
Well,
Yeah.
why don't we just like
Mm.
go in there and just fix it.
Why? Why should we be responsible for that? See, I'm
I have a
100% with Trump on this shit, dude. 100%.
problem.
Why do we have to be the ones to fix everything? Why can't we just
Well, I
blockade
agree
them
with
and
that,
let them
but
take care of themselves?
I
Right?
agree with that to
Yeah.
some degree. But that's a lot of people that you're just.
I think what
I
was going to
I
suppose
get that.
tough love.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I
I
get
think
your
what
point.
was going to happen in about 10, 15 years anyway, where the manufacturing was going to be shifted to this, at least for America, to this side of the world, whether it be in America or Mexico or Canada or whatever. A lot of that was going to happen anyway, just because it doesn't make sense to keep sending it overseas.
Mm,
When you can do it here so cheaply now with
yeah.
automation and stuff, there's no reason to do it. So that was going to happen anyway. I think that's just going to happen a lot sooner because I think too many of these they played their it's over. It's done. We can't allow this to happen again where we're at the mercy of literally the most evil government on the planet,
Well,
where they
currently, yeah.
literally
Yeah.
threatened to cut off America from their medical supplies, which we
Oh,
get
yeah.
most of from China, to just kill millions of Americans. It would
Yeah.
have killed millions of Americans.
That's
We
true.
cannot allow
Well,
them to have that
when
kind of
it's
power.
when it's all said and done, you know what the result is. Countries are going to borrow a ton of money from on at interest from the usual suspects, and they all get richer. That's
Yep.
all that happens
That's how
every
China
single
owns so
time.
much of Africa, dude. That's right.
Well, and also here, it's going to happen
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Well,
With
a
giving out
yeah,
Trump
but
bucks,
a
and
s-
the Canadians are talking about doing it. Governments don't have money unless they confiscate it or borrow it
it's
at
true.
interest
That's true. But then again, that's
from the
an
money
executive
lenders.
order away from fixing. I mean, we can simply executive order all Chinese property is now the property of the American government, right? That's pretty
Well,
simple
it's a
to deal with.
boogaloo away. That's what it has to. If you ever want
Yeah, well,
things to
that's true.
change,
Well,
you're going to have the
One thing
boogaloo.
people need to remember is China is not the only real threat China is to America is the fact that we keep giving them our production base. If we wouldn't have done that, they don't have a navy that can open water compete with ours or Japan's. And who do you think Japan's going to side with? And they don't have an air force. Their air force is a joke.
Japan's going to
So
side with America, obviously.
yeah, exactly. So
And
China's not
the
really
Chinese
a
people,
military. China's not really a military threat.
It's
to us.
Japan,
So
South Korea, and Taipei.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
mean,
if
so
we,
come on.
if we cut them
And I-
off, there's nothing they can do
the
besides whine.
Chinese people they'll side with the U.S. as well.
Probably. Yeah.
A lot
Now,
of them will.
I know you guys are probably starting to complain. This is supposed to be about space, Chester. Yeah, I just want to cover it real quick. I understand. We're moving on. I do. Roger Hellis says, right on another mystery. Dive into the unknown with a little bit of fact. A little bit. That's right. With some funny, awesome people, and with a host that brings his own lightning from home. That's right, dude. Roger, thank you very much. Rob07 says, hello. Cult film videos in here says, praise Yebus. Okay. Claudio. Oh. A moment of silence for Claudio. Let his sexiness reverberate over you. Hair shall grow. He is the solution for the over estrogen soy boys. His
Oh boy.
essence. Thank you, thank you. Lady Celtic booms in. Hey, how you doing, young one? We got Tolfer in here as well. Walter Garvey, thank you very much for your kind sentiments there, dude. And then he goes on to say, sage, oregano, thyme, and garlic are all antiviral. Pass it on. Zinc is also useful. Yeah. I am glad for you. Well, thank you, Lady Celtic Moon. Walter says high death rates are partly due to undiagnosed cases, possibly. Italy being a single payer healthcare system, God help them. It's not hard to overrun the system. That's fair. Well, we're starting to see a lot of little cracks in the facade of places, and hopefully, our wishful thinking that China will actually be held accountable, of course, is wishful thinking. But maybe we will see some corrections coming in that way, meaning that, hey, maybe we should be making our antibiotics locally, et cetera, right?
and everything
Yeah.
else.
And everything else, right? I mean, little
I don't
plastic
particularly
crap. Go
care
ahead.
if we don't make junk gadgets or iPhones. I don't care where those come from.
That's
Particularly,
fine.
they don't
Yeah.
matter. But serious strategic resources like medicine, military stuff, energy, which we have anyway, just stuff
Yeah.
like that needs to be made here, or at least so close to here that we can get there in a few hours.
Yeah,
Steel.
that's true. Yeah.
And
true.
some of the other stuff needs to be made here just so we have the infrastructure and the know-how in place.
Yeah, we need
How many?
steel back. We need
Yeah,
steel
how many
back.
journeyman
Yeah.
millwrights do you think there are in the country now? How many tool and die makers?
Oh wow, that's a good point, dude. That's a really good point. And Slick makes a good point too. With our various skilled and artisans and such. Now, I have to say, I'm pretty happy with 3M because, and I'm sure they're getting paid for it. I get that. But Pence went over there and had a chat with them, and those guys shifted their production, and they're on that, dude. They're on it, right? So
He
it
walked in
shows
there
you,
and
yeah.
he said, "Nice little company you have here. Hate to see something happen to it."
Maybe. But they're getting it done, and that's a good. That's what we need. A lot of that. Anyway, Film Video says, I don't think Corona will cause any globalist blowback. It should though. Every lib I know still blames Trump and doesn't even know China deploying mafia tactics, which they are. I still don't understand how Trump gets the blame for it. I don't really get that. But whatever. Let's move on because
Well, Trump is all four horses of the apocalypse, obviously. So
obviously.
pestilence is just one thing.
True. True. All right. Well, actually, I should come over here and do this first. Now we're going to get into our conversation for today, guys. Do apologize, but this virus is worldwide and it's part of our lives, so we need to have a little chat about it. But we're going to get away from it now, and we're going to get into our conversation of today. So. Now, normally, I will give my primer, my introduction to the idea, and just have these guys wait for I'm done. But the one I have is very lengthy, so I'm kind of wanting them to interact with me as we go, or we could start with whatever ideas they have because mine's pretty long. So we could do either way. What would you guys like to do? Would you like to delve into mine first, or do you want to delve into yours first?
I think you should go first, personally.
Okay. So just keep in mind, if you guys have any opinions or anything to say, just go ahead and jump right in. All right. This we're gonna do it a little different today because it's quite long. Yeah, feel free to give an opinion and disagree with me. That's probably the best thing to do. All right, here we go. Now, today I really want to talk about the black hole mainly, and that's my conspiracy theory for the day. But the problem is, in order for a black hole to be a conspiracy theory, there's a lot of things that have to be a conspiracy theory, right? That have to be debunked, and therefore, where do we start? Well, we start at the beginning, unfortunately, because currently our science, specifically talking about space science or physics, astrophysics, is no longer being actually applied by physicists. It's being applied by mathematicians. Now, it seems odd. These are very distinct disciplines. But yet, when you go try to find a astrophysicist or a physicist in general, you're not finding any physicists. What you're finding are mathematicians. And that's odd, in my opinion. And of course, the reason for that is that the whole world decided to grapple and dig their claws into a single theory. Well, it's actually more complex than that, but into a single guy and this simple equation. Now, once again, you guys see me talk about Albert. I'm not a hater of Albert Einstein at all. I respect his ideas. I think he helped to move science forward. I'm not anti Einstein. But of course, the problem with Einstein is that every theory he's had has been debunked. That's a problem, and it's not a problem. I mean, we go back in the past and we look at Newton or Copernicus, or we look at any of these old scientists and their thinkings. They've all been debunked by now, but they move things forward. But the problem is the current system that we have in place won't let it go. They won't move on, even though they're completely full of holes and basically walking dead, right? And I want to get into that today because I think it's very important that we move on. Because that's part of the process, right? That's actual science. So the first thing I want to do is, you guys see, I have the famous E equals MC squared, which no one actually understands. So let's go ahead and shut this down first. Someone here in the chat with me, please tell me, what does E equals MC squared mean?
It's energy. It's mass. Is it acceleration or I forget offhand what it is. I've not paid attention to that for many years.
Okay. Thundero?
Sorry, I was muted. I used to know what it is, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Let's see, that's a problem. Slick?
Energy equals mass times the speed of light.
Okay, speed of light
squared. There we go. Thank
Squared,
you.
whatever. I mean,
Thank you. Thank you, Slick. Thank you. No, that's awesome, dude. Now, of course, this mathematics did lead us to the concept of splitting the atom and yada yada yada. So there, it was somehow ironically applied. But and I'm very happy that these guys up here use the word mass because a lot of people use the word matter, right? And the odd thing about that is, as far as Einstein's seemingly his theories are concerned, they're interchangeable anyway, which is weird because first of all, energy is completely undefined by Einstein. What energy? What do you mean by that? It's completely unidentified, right? Then when we come into mass and matter, the problem is mass is a product of matter, according to what he's saying, but yet he's also saying that mass is in itself energetic. Well, how is that possible? That he's contradicting himself in the same damn sentence, which he does quite a bit. And then, of course, the speed of light is very, very problematic, to use a word of the modern youngster, because it's not constant. It's actually quite inconsistent.
Mass has potential. Some definitely has energy.
I think
and
so.
A lot, but most of it has potential energy.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, but then again, you take without matter, according to his theories, there is no mass because you need matter to create gravity, right? But yet, he's only talking about mass being energetic, not matter. It's very convoluted, dude. And once again, the speed of light thing is a major problem because light is not consistent. It depends on its medium. They've done experiments in the laboratory to the point that they've actually frozen light, literally stopped it from moving, which is shockingly a shocking science, but yet they have. So the E equals MC squared is completely irrelevant now because it doesn't function, and it never really did. No one actually ever understood what he was talking about. I'm not even thinking he did, right? Because everything in this is literally undefined or undefinable. And therefore, it becomes very problematic. But yet, all modern physics is built upon this equation, and they refuse to bend away from it. Refuse, as if they were religious fanatics or something, right?
Well, they would almost they would have to start over with so much. Nobody wants to do that.
But yet they have to. And
I agree totally.
Yeah, but and the thing is, they don't have to actually have to start over. What they need to do is just go back to the science before E equals MC squared, because that was closer to where we are today than Einstein was, right? Now, this problem can be illustrated in many ways, and I'm going to try to do that today. I'm going to do my best. But we get into a lot of problems with these equations, and keep in mind, I don't want to be rude and leave out special relativity and the absolute inanity of that. All right. Understand what he's saying with special relativity, to kind of sum it up, make it simple for you, is that your perspective changes reality. Right, and therefore the perspective of everyone on Earth is reality is changed as well. But here's the problem with it, and the same problem we have with Newtonian physics, and many other scientists of the past, which I don't blame them. You'll see why I don't blame them in a minute. Is it's very terrestrial centric. What about the rest of the universe? Because by their thinking, which is quite ironic, I think, in order for their theories to work, the Earth needs to be the center of the universe. But yet they're all at the same time trying to debunk religion and the concept that Earth is the center of the universe. But yet their own science is trying to prove that is true. And of course, that's because they had no image beyond Earth. They're very terrestrial. And these days, I think we're getting a little bit better of looking beyond ourselves. And that's why science is starting to expand. Because, the special relativity only works if you're only a person that perceives things from Earth. And this is a problem. And even the concept of it anyway, that reality molds to your thinking. I mean, I love the idea, and we've even talked about it here on TFT, the idea of the mind having the power to alter reality. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? But the Einstein's promoting that. It's interesting, right?
One of my favorite examples of perception changing reality it's a really simple one. It's the sun setting
Mhm.
on the ocean and the line of reflection that you see coming towards you. Well, you don't see a line going to any person if he's 100 meters down the beach. You don't see his line.
Right.
You only see yours.
Yeah, no, and I get the whole idea. I get his understanding and his idea, because it come out of the idea of several things. A lot of people point to the bowling ball and feather drop within the supposed vacuum, but it also comes from his ideas of watching trains go by and things like that. And he was just trying to make sense of the universe. Once again, I'm not knocking on Einstein. I think he's important. I'm just saying that we're well beyond it now, and we should understand that and show him respect. But let's move on, right?
Yeah,
Because
he was a fantastic thinker, not
yeah,
necessarily someone who came up with long-lasting
no,
results but he was an absolute great thinker and inspired a lot of other great thinking.
yes, he
So
did. Yeah, he did.
yeah,
He did.
his contribution is valuable. There's no question about it.
It is.
But he's been elevated to this deity of
Yeah, no, it's like Gandhi, I mentioned before. He's been made the poster child of something. And I don't even know that he would agree with what's happened to his legacy, to be honest with you. But nevertheless, him watching the bowling ball and the feather fall, and of course falling at the same time, what his statement was that radically all it just shook the scientific community was the ball and the feather are not moving at all. Space is moving. Yeah, now think about that for half a second. Just
sure.
rummage that over in your brain. All right, let's give some more specific ideas of where we are today and how we need to get away from the Einsteinian model. Right, I'm going to try to explain this as succinctly as I can. Now, I'm going to show you three images here. Now we have ourselves a quasar. Okay, we have ourselves a supernova. Right. And we have ourselves a galaxy. Now, in each one of these cases, you have to understand that current science is so wrong on all of them that they contradict themselves constantly and don't even care. Right? And I'm going to break down how they're doing that. Right? Now, the easiest way to do that is to simply start with, the local body we call the sun. Now, there are many of those in the universe, as we can see when we look up at the thing called a star. But how inside nuclear physics, right, which is the Newtonian physics, how is a sun created? Can anyone answer that for me? How does it come to be? Okay, I'll explain it. Based
Well,
on,
there are different.
Do you want me to go into it? I mean,
There's
just
different
briefly.
methods.
I would no, I would. I want you to tell me what you've been taught about how a star comes to be, please. Yes.
Okay. Well, matter supposedly has gravitational
Uh-huh.
properties, and as matter is condensed, God damn it, cat, get the fuck out of here.
Oh, it's
Sorry.
ding ding. All right. And the cat flies across the room. 3 points. Hey, go ahead.
He just scratched my leg.
Uh-huh. Bad cat. Bad kitty.
Okay. And as the matter coalesces and the mass becomes larger, you get compression.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what supposedly happens in stellar nurseries. And then at a certain point, the nuclear fusion takes place and it ignites the star, starts burning hydrogen, and that's the element that it burns through most of its life until it gets to the later part of its life, starts to burn helium and other elements until it either goes out or it goes nova.
Okay, all right, fine. We'll take that. Now, in amongst the explanation you just gave us, the idea is that force, such an extreme amount of force, has caused the coalition of elements into a nuclear reaction, therefore the birth of the sun, right? But
essentially.
and it's completely random. It's just random. It just happens here or there. There's no reason for it. It just happens. Okay. Now the problem with that is, and do keep in mind that this is another contradiction you see right in front of you every day that you don't even realize is a contradiction. Let's go back to our galaxy. That doesn't look very random to me. It's actually not random at all. Let's take a clean look at it here. How about this? Does this look random to you? No, it's not random. It's not happening just here or there. It's happening for a reason. But yet, with the current cosmology, it's a random thing that happens just happens, right? And it's obviously ridiculous. But understand, there's a crisis in cosmology that's been going on for over a decade, and they're getting to, I think they're getting to the breaking point, and you're seeing so many people move over to plasma sciences or trying to carve out new sciences or what have you, because they're not finding the answers they want. They've been banging at this for a long time and it's not working, so people are looking for new avenues of research, and that's a good thing. But the whole concept of how a sun comes to be doesn't make any sense whatsoever. However, if you take a look at it and you think of the sun as being a positively charged anode, right? And then you look at all the matter around it as being a negatively charged cathode. Well, now what's happening? Well, you will see in experiments that you can actually do in the laboratory, by the way, you will see that all of the cathode material will come into a harmonic balance with each other, kind of like planets orbiting around a sun. Ironic, isn't it? Right. And of course, when we look at these mapping of our galaxy and stuff, what we're seeing here, what are all these little glowy lines? What is all this connecting between all these suns? What is this? Well, they're called Birkeland currents, and they're plasma, they're electrical, and they're all over the place. These things not only connect every star in the galaxy, they also connect every galaxy we can see. And this has been confirmed, by the way, right? This is not actual theory. These have been actually, the data has been crunched and shown out. So we are connected, and this is the problem that the modern science has. They keep proving things and showing things to be true, but yet they don't want to accept it, and they keep talking about the other things. Like, for instance, this might shock you, but understand that NASA's fronting or opinion on the matter is this: that electricity has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with the universe whatsoever. But also keep in mind that magnetism is a minor force that has no play in anything at all, because they're completely gravity centric. Even though they can't define the word, magnetism has nothing to do with anything, right? But yet we know now that everything is magnetic. This has been proven, what, 8 years ago? But yet science, NASA, they keep refusing to talk about what they have already proved. And it's denial, dude. It's denial, right?
They can't have that gravy train shut off, Chester.
I suppose, dude.
It's 52 million a day. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but we could transfer the gravy train into something that might actually produce results, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's not usually how it works.
no, but and keep in mind also another thing that we've understood these days that they refuse to understand is they don't want to see any pattern in a thing that is a galaxy, and understand the thing at the center of the galaxy is a super black hole, of course. Even though we know that's not what's going on there, but that's their theory and they're sticking to it. But there's no pattern here. There's no kind of consistency. It's all random. It just happens. And then they've also come to understand that we have like the Magellanic Cloud here. This is a large one. They consider it a dwarf galaxy of its own now that is intertwined with ours. And of course, they've also come to the understanding of what we are. we're not actually in the Milky Way. We're in our own little Magellanic cloud like this one, and we're being intertwined into the Milky Way as well. We're looking at a minimum of 3, maybe 4 little galaxies that are being sucked up by this big galaxy. All right. Well, this is where we come to, but yet still everything is random and nothing is having anything to do anything, and it's just a black hole that's sucking everything in, is going to burn and kill us all. Oh, we're going to die. All right.
Well, who took that photo, Chester? Did you take that? That's amazing.
Thank you very much.
I'm not sure if that's the Magellanic Cloud. I think that's the local cluster.
No, that's the Large Magellanic Cloud, dude. Have faith in me. Believe in me.
I can't.
Love me.
I can't zoom in, so I can't tell you.
Okay, but of course, Model is making a good point, right? All these images I've shown you are artistic representations, right? And let's show you a few more. Now, these are black holes over the years, right? We started with the one on the upper left here, and then we went on to this little watery-looking thing, and then, of course, we're on to this thing in the bottom. So they evolve. It's interesting how the data just conveniently changes. It's pretty cool, dude. And then, of course, we also have the current announcement: a black hole has been seen, and it has been photographed and then artistically drawn. Mm-hmm. This is supposed to be a black hole. Now, of course, don't you love how the artist made it all blurry and kind of distant-like? Don't you love that?
Okay, I checked. You're right. That's fine. If I don't just take your word for
Thank you,
it.
Slick. Thank you. I did prepare, but no,
Well,
of course,
considering some of our topics, sometimes I have to check your data.
You should do that. I agree, 100%. But I do try to be accurate. I make mistakes, of course, but and of course, this is just a pontification upon a topic, right? So let's not get too serious about it, everybody. Yeah, okay, you should do that. Anyway, now this is complete nonsense. There's nothing in this imagery or the data itself that does anything but conform to the data that they put into the compiler itself, right? They're kind of getting the data that they want because they built the machine to give them data that they wanted. That seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? Right?
Well, you see that black center, don't you, Chester? That's the black hole.
Yeah, huh? But once again, the artistic, I love the fact that the artist made it distant. I love it. It's blurry. What an effect to trick the entire public, right? I just want to bitch slap somebody, dude. I swear to God. But anyway, of course, now that they're real, and of course there is no real, because in truth, what that really is, just like all these other galaxies and things we say, what they are is actual plasmoids. And plasmoid is a real thing that we can test in the laboratory, by the way. It also connects everything we need to know, right? When you get energy spinning in of itself and pressuring in on itself, it ultimately will create a plasmoid. And the more and more dense that plasmoid becomes, the more it shoots off neutrons. Now, of course, the electrons and the protons are banging around, and they just can become so dense that they start putting out this cloud of neutrons above them. And of course, what happens when a neutron decay? Going back to your high school science, when neutrons decay, they become electrons and protons. Right. And of course, what this is representing in this earlier picture I showed, the first picture I showed you of the quasar, a quasar is nothing more than a galaxy, a baby galaxy, being born out of a bigger galaxy, because those galaxies get spin in their centers. The centers of the electrical pulsing become plasmoids. They just are dumping above them, which is weird that we have a concept of above and below. But because we're dealing with electricity, of course, we have a positive and negative, right? And therefore, the above, the up aspect is where this giant cloud of neutrons start to form. And of course, like I said, when neutrons decay, they become electrons and protons. And of course, where do we find quasars? Above galaxies, always, right? And then, another thing with the electrical aspect of it, when I showed you that image of the supernova here, supernovas are supposed to be exploding suns, right? Right.
Yeah, it's even got a lens flare. It's amazing.
I know it's JJ was involved, but the thing with it is, I love these artistic representations. They are pretty cool, though. I have to admit, they're pretty sexy. But the The problem is, in the past, decade or so, we've been finding a lot of so-called supernovas, and yes, I am air quoting, that don't act anything like that. And it comes down once again back to this concept, a lot of concepts that came out of Einstein. And one of those concepts that came out was, of course, redshift. And redshift is supposedly showing you that things are moving away, right? That was the idea of the red shift and therefore the Big Bang. But understand the Big Bang has been debunked so many times in the past decade, it's not even funny. It's getting a bit sad, to be honest with you. Because what we found now is redshift has nothing to do with the movement of a thing. It has to do with its power output. And everything that's showing in the redshift is simply young. It's young and underpowered. It's a new thing. So redshifting doesn't show movement, it shows new, right? And that absolutely shatters everything they're talking about because that kills the Big Bang. Now, the problem with that is you say, okay, Chester, well, then how did these things come to be then? If the Big Bang isn't real, how does it be? Well, the thing is, when we take a look at the energetic aspects of plasma, we don't need a Big Bang, dude. We don't. All we need is a spark. And from that, everything is born because suns are not born randomly by some application of unknown mysterious force. No, they are little chains, as you can see right here in frickin' front of you. Little chains that just go out and they create little anodes of electrical overcharge in their area, and therefore they start growing and becoming suns. And then what does the sun do? We know this is happening. This has been documented by our satellites that are watching Sol 1 and Sol 2, right? That are documenting the sun. We know elements are being sped out of them at incredible rates, right? And we also know that smaller, weaker dwarf suns, like say like Saturn or Jupiter, do the same thing, but they tend to coalesce within the body of the dwarf sun rather than being just shot out in this incredible solar wind. But yet, also, one of the most important things I talked to you about with Sapphire Project is those guys have reproduced this. They're producing elements in the laboratory from their man-made sun, right? And this is where all the materials come from. And in a dwarf sun, the elements kind of form within the body of it. And when it gets dense enough, it starts getting its own polarity and starts moving around. The positive and negative thing comes into place, and it literally kind of gets birthed out of the sun. And it's a planet, and that's why you see these Saturn and Jupiter and these other planets that have been discovered that are gas giants of other places, and the moons that are flying around them that we've identified. That's why these things have so many damn moons around them, because they are planet makers.
No, I do have to say, Chester, I disagree with a lot of this.
I'm sure you do.
That you're saying.
I'm sure you do.
And especially in the presentation of A, B, and C, we know this. We don't know all this. We definitely don't.
Well, actually, the things I said we know, we do know. These are things that we've actually been able to test and show. That's my point. The theory of things coming out of Einstein and Hawking and all those people after it, those are theory. They're complete theory. They're mathematical gymnastics. The stuff I'm talking about are things that we've documented. Now, I'm using these imagery to make it clear and show, but it doesn't matter this artistic representation of the data. The data itself shows it.
No, I'm talking, things like when you say Sol 1 and 2, the elements spitting off the sun. We know this. And no, we don't. We don't.
Yeah, no, we do. We have documented
who's the source? Who's we?
We have satellites that are up there catching elements coming out of the sun, dude.
Okay, but who is I mean, really, that's what I'm asking.
I see. So you're assuming that NASA has they are all done by NASA. Are they all funded by NASA? Not all. The Vatican has done some. I know there's one. It's another independent from the European Union. But yeah, I get your point. So you're going back to the point that it could all be a lie. All right, I get. I get you.
Easy to present all this as a fact and just say they gave it to us. They know this. You know what I mean?
No, I understand.
That's what I'm saying.
I understand your point. So if all the data that we're being given, that we have in raw data that we can calculate, if that is all a lie, that is given to us as a lie, then everything I've just said is nothing. But then again, what that also means is nothing is nothing. There is nothing. So I mean, but it's fair point. Fair point. I'll take with
What
that.
if it was possible that what we really do know is very close to nothing? I
Yeah,
think that's
could
more
be.
possible than we have a really good grip on a lot of what we're observing.
Sure. Well, what do you guys think? Do you think that maybe because if he's right, and all the data that we have is complete bunk, it's just all lies. Everything is a lie. Then everything I just said means nothing at all. So, what do you guys think about that concept, Thundero?
Sorry, I was clearing my throat. Um, I would say we don't know what we don't know, and we can't know what we don't know. So there's really no way to even answer the question either direction, because what we do know could be a minute, and from what we understand, is a minute fraction of reality.
Yeah, that's fair.
So we could go from, let's say we have a huge breakthrough and we develop a warp drive or something, right? Let's say that's a possibility and it happens. Find a way to actually travel out in space. Just as developing long form sails and the ability to sail across the oceans and things helped explode scientific research and discovery in the world, really,
Yeah.
that would do the same. And what we do know, or what we're able to test and verify and falsify, would exponentially grow beyond anything we have now, beyond what we can even fathom now, most likely. So we simply don't know what we don't know, and we can't know what we don't know until we know it. That's the
And the
reality.
thing that concerns me always is that
I think I just wet myself.
the experts and the scientists and the people at NASA, they'll never say what Thundaro just said. They'll never say, we don't know. What do they always do? They always fill in, whether they know for sure or not. They'll just pack some bullshit in there.
Yeah, but ever growing, tilting toward majority of scientists do though, right? And that's the thing. That's why it's so exciting about the plasma cosmologies and sciences, because they are very happy to say we don't know. We're doing our best to figure out why. That's what's so exciting about it, because it's bringing real science back for the first time in over 100 years, dude. Right? And
So
I think it's important.
do you believe in when they talk about there's billions of suns
Yeah.
all over? Yeah,
Well,
I
no.
see. I don't,
Okay.
and that's
Okay. You're talking about the word. You're skating around the word infinity, right? Now understand, when before all this Einsteinian crap came out, the word infinity was a concept. It was not a mathematical application. Understand that, right? It was never looked at like that. But when
no,
Einstein and
that
those
that
guys
really
came in,
doesn't
they're
have.
the ones that applied
Yeah,
it mathematically,
that's
and
not
that's
what I'm talking
nonsense.
about at all.
Okay.
That's not what I'm talking about at all. Even to say, okay, let's just say 10,000 suns.
Okay.
I doubt it.
Well, then what
What's
is
the
it you
close?
see above you then? What are your own eyes telling you when you look up in the sky?
I see a twinkly light.
And what for you, what does that represent, you think?
Well, we call them stars, right? What's the closest one?
The closest star, as in the sun, that would be
Not
Alpha
not
Centauri.
our.
Proxima,
Yeah,
Alpha
but
Centauri, Proxima 2, I think.
And our sun is our closest sun, but the closest sun to
Technically.
us is Alpha Centauri.
Get him,
and
Slick.
how far is that away?
Oh, 93 million
No, our
miles, I
sun
think.
is
Yeah.
the first star. That's not our.
4.3 million light years.
Four some odd light years. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 4.3 million light years.
No. 4.3 light years, not million.
Yeah, I'm sorry, a million. I just got the million from you saying 90. Yeah, 4.3 light years. So you have to travel at the speed of light 4.3 years. I believe it's 4.3.
Yeah,
I
he's right.
think it's further than that, though. But regardless, we have no scientific equipment, optical equipment that can look that far. That's why we get these images. We get these artist representations.
That's
So
true.
if we can't get a good look at it, but we're just all going to assume that every one of those specks of light is a sun.
But we do have
And
energetic data that is coming from. We do have that.
data.
4.367 is Alpha Centauri.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
According to the astronomers. Now I'm going to interject here. All this speculation, that's well and good.
Mm.
I've been to the Keck observatory when I was thinking about being an astronomer. I was able to resolve out of the Keck
Praise Keck.
observatory, and
Praise Keck.
yes, the Keck spelled differently, but same thing. You look up there, the stuff that the naked eye can see is very little compared to what you can actually see when you resolve. Now, you can believe or not that the Hubble is up there and et cetera. And, when we use radio telemetry and all this other stuff, but things are you can see them be revealed. It's not like, and they are repeatable. So if that's repeatable, then there's something up there, and there's far, far more model than 10,000 stars.
No, of
You
course.
have no idea.
That wasn't my point.
Yeah, let me give you, I want you to listen to me on this. You can focus in on something that's the size of a pinpoint, and then you can focus in on the size of a pinpoint again, and there are endless galaxies that you're seeing out there, and they're shaped. You can see them.
Yes.
And each one of these galaxies.
Right? Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. So when we're talking, billions, no, it's trillions upon trillions. It gets into, the exponentials. There's so much out there that's there. Now, whatever Chester was saying about the electromagnetism, that may very well be. I think that the energetics of the universe are just being come to understand. We haven't been able to weigh the universe, quote unquote, because there's been matter missing, and this may be part of it. And what I mean by matter is when we talk about EMC squared, the energetics of matter and energy, and how things go from one to the other. I mean, there are different forms of matter. I mean, we have the standard ones that we can interact with. We have gas, we have solid, we can have liquid, and then we have plasma. Now, plasma is a whole different thing. It's very hard to quantify in how it works because it's something we can't play with very easily.
No, yes, we can. That's the point.
Well, we can play with it a little bit, but we can't play with it like I watched that entire thing about that, and I'm still not utterly convinced.
Yeah, but plasma or electricity is completely replicated in the laboratory, and it's completely scalable. I mean, it's not. It's
maybe you saw something I didn't when I watched.
Well, I've been following
4
this
different
for
videos.
a decade, dude. Yeah.
I mean, I watched 4 different videos of them going on them, and I'm waiting for them to get to what those guys do is they need to congeal what they're saying down into bite-sized pieces of what they're saying, because they yammer on a lot. And I watched 4 different videos that were over an hour a piece, and I was like, So when somebody talks a lot, maybe I'm can be accused of this. I tend to want to find the gist of it. Yeah. And they're getting to the gist was very hard. It felt like, I'm going to be honest, I felt like they were selling me snake oil. But I mean, that's me.
Okay. I have been following this for a long time, and I get the gist completely. And it's more important to me the fact that they're doing experiments in the laboratory, and when they fail, they're honest about their failure, and when they're successful, they're honest about that too. Because it's real science, right? Which I'm very excited to see going on. But they have explained it very clearly. And the things that they can't explain,
maybe the guys I was
theorize about.
listening to. Maybe the guys I was listening to weren't the best salesmen in the world.
Well, who are you listening to?
I don't know. They were just guys that were involved in a project, and Sapphire, correct?
Oh, Sapphire. Well, I mean, the Sapphire guys are doing their thing in the laboratory, but I would look at just go look at plasma scientists and plasma cosmologists in general. Those guys have been banging on this for quite a while, and like I said, every year more and more scientists are moving over to their side.
I mean,
of the field,
you may be correct. I may not be as well versed on that, but the
fine.
plasma guys you pointed to me, I got to where I was like trying to stay awake because they weren't coming to a point where
Oh, I see.
and telling me exactly what they were saying.
Well,
And that could be that they don't have the best salesman to
yeah, I think
bring
so.
everything
Yeah,
together and
they're
pitch
just
it.
scientists. Yeah, I get your point. But you can go online and you can get the data yourself and not have to listen to these guys inappropriately explain it. And you can read the data yourself. Everything is posted. They're being completely open and honest. They have experiments. You can watch the actual experiments while they're happening. And you don't need to have their, maybe they are convoluted. I don't know. But you can look at the data yourself and therefore, decide what you want. Now, I do want to catch up with the chat because the chat has opinions, and I want to keep the chat involved. But the only problem model with your concept, and I'll let you extrapolate more upon it after I get done with the chat, is the fact that we can't actually have a conversation with your point of view.
No, I'm fine with that, but I just that yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Okay, let's see here. Eric Hawkins says energy and matter are interchangeable. They are different forms of the same thing. Well, that's the thing, dude. Mass and matter are interchangeable, sure, but yet, as far as Einstein is concerned, they're not interchangeable. But yet they are. So, huh? It's confusing. Talk about convolution. Rodwell Seven says the wage gap has always been debunked multiple times, but people can't stop talking about it. True. Very true. Marsupial Gamer says it's like timey-wimey stuff. I don't know what that means, but you're probably right. Walter says we are all star poop. Energy slowed to a certain spectrum. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's an interesting concept, Walter. I like it. Marsupial says light in a vacuum is consistent. Well, we used to think that, but it's not, though. It is absolutely alterable. Light seems to be very alterable and even controllable, which could be useful in the future. Walter says there's a new technique to catch energy in a solid state using graphene screen layers. Yeah, no, I saw that. The Tachyon project. Marsupial, I like the double slit experiment. The double slit experiment is very fascinating, and it's one of those things that can be demonstrated really easily. Really easy. You just take a plate, put the proper amount of cuts in the thing, and have a laser, and see what happens to the protons on the other side, or excuse me, the electrons on the other side. Double slit experiment is pretty cool, and it's something you could do in your high school classroom, actually.
It's still not something that's fully explainable. I saw that back in
No,
college, way
yeah,
back
you're
in the
right.
day. My physics teacher showed it to us, and it's one of those things that if you
Yeah.
can figure this out and give a direct, it's one of you've heard of the Nobel Prize list.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Oh,
Like if
yeah,
you
I
can
know.
figure it out and give a decent explanation, Nobel Prize.
Yeah. Now
And
they
there's a
have no
whole
clue,
bunch of
dude.
those in science.
Yeah, but understand the double slit experiment is what has led us to quantum physics and quantum theory itself. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, it's obviously something we don't understand. There are many things we don't understand, but it is fascinating, though, dude. And if you don't know what the double slit experiment is, go check it out, man. It's pretty cool. But once again, like I said, quantum physics comes directly from it. So. Let's see here. Walter says apparently you can make a gravity well using energy as well as a large amount of mass. The deeper you are in a gravity well, the slower time moves. Now that's a very interesting thing to theorize about, mathematically connotate. But we can't. Where can we do these experiments? We can't. You can't do these experiments at all. That's the problem. It's all theory. And that's one of the reasons I really love plasma because even though I've seen them make many failures, I mean, I'm not trying to hide anything, guys. They've had a lot of failures, but they've also had successes. And that's the cool thing about it is they can do actual experimentation, and that's important. Harvey Weinstein has coronavirus. Couldn't happen to a better guy, I guess. Eric says the first two are Marvel characters and the third isn't. Fair enough. Fair enough. Plasma, Nick says. God. It could be God. Yeah. Language. Interesting. Nick was offended by the God word. Oh, no. Interstellar dust coming together. I don't know what that means.
He was I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I said God damn it. I apologize.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, well, let's be respectful. Cats create stars. Cats, Electric Universe. Sweet. All right. Eric says, "Hold on, Chester. Are these more of the fake pictures from space?" Yeah. Well, that's kind of the point. It's my point, and it's also Model's point, which is interesting. Walter says, "String theory, or what I like to call tiny bubble dimensional theory, is supposed to explain the difference between the strong force and the weak force." Well, here's the thing, though. When we're talking about string theory, is very fascinating. If you guys never studied it, it's interesting. And of course, string theories let us, particle theory, string theory, and of course, the currently M or membrane
M
theory we
theory.
have now. Yeah, that's right. But it's very fascinating. If you haven't studied it before, go check it out. It's interesting. But here's the thing, though. Why are we always focused upon the strong force and the weak force and how that applies to gravity, but yet we cannot define gravity at all, and we never ever take electricity into account? Why is that? How do we cut something that is clearly everywhere out of the equation, right? Anyway, but it is fascinating. Go check it
Well,
out.
the four forces aren't the electromagnetism, strong, weak, and gravity? Am I incorrect?
Yeah, but as far as science is concerned, mainstream science, electricity plays no part in anything, right? But the
Well,
same, but I mean, at the same time, they say that suns are created randomly, and that matter is an aspect of force being compounded upon itself, creating gravitational fields, etc., etc. But they don't look at the whole picture, and that's another reason why I really prefer plasma science, because they're trying to look at the whole picture, and it's young, it's new, guys. There's a lot of work to be done with plasma science, but I feel that they're moving in the right direction because they're doing experimentation, they're taking their losses and moving on and trying to find why it didn't work, and applying different theories. And the thing is, they've had some successes too. And that's important, I think. Let's see here. Why can't we see the real picture? Chester is racist against black holes. Yeah, okay, I'll take that. Eric says, Slick, Chester is never wrong, never. And don't you forget it. Thank you very much, Eric.
I'm not afraid to disagree with Chester.
No,
Just
you
because
shouldn't
he's a
be.
big galoot doesn't mean I don't have my own mind about
I am a
things.
gorilla. That's fair enough. Nick says, wrong, Chester. Quasar is a superhero. That's fair. Einstein was a hack fraud. No, I don't think so. I think he believed in what he was saying, and he was trying to figure things out, and I don't have a problem with that. Eric says, who is we? Top men. Top men are working on it. Thank you. Nothing is nothing. Chester 2020. Thank you. At least you didn't do the boom one. Oh goodness. Eric says, truth is, we don't know Jack in all theories and guesses. That's true. That is fair. Curious 2A says, nothing from nothing means nothing. You had to do something for I don't know something to punch you in the mouth, Eddie Murphy. Okay. MRFer. I get it. Okay. Bullet says, model isn't drunk enough to properly articulate his view. I'm going to give him a moment. I mean, because it's a fair argument, right? It actually is a fair argument. Um, if he's seen a star that looked like that, he'd punch it in the face. True. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. You got to have something if you want to be with me, Billy Preston. Oh, interesting. You guys are on it. Nick is singing his now that I betrayed everyone I've ever loved, I pushed them all away, and I have been a slave to the Judas in my mind.
Wow.
Oh, all
That's
right,
quite the
Jericho,
chat.
calm down. Who
Bullet
let
says,
Jericho in here?
right. A little bit of the bubbly. Roger says, Chester, that's what she said. Uh-oh. Oh, goodness gracious. Cult Film says, Harvey's been using a walker since he got charged. Yeah, I know. He's trying to get that sympathy. He got corona in his ass. Maybe. Let's see. BDT. I don't know what that means. Nick continues his singing. He says, I'm becoming. Judas in my mind. Okay. I wish I knew the song so I could put the melody to it. All right, I've caught up to the chat. I've caught up. So,
Rand
model.
Paul apparently has the coronavirus as well.
Who?
Rand Paul.
Rand Paul. Dude, there's a lot of celebrities that have the corona,
I
dude.
stand by my theory, and the more I think about it, they were at a big orgy, and all this stuff happened.
It may be.
Yeah.
Maybe. But there are world leaders, celebrities, a lot of them got the corona, dude. It's weird. But anyway, thank you, chat. Great ideas, great pontificating from you, ladies and gentlemen. I do appreciate it. But let's go back over to Model and let him expound upon his theory a little bit because we can't really interact the two theories very well. But yet I think it's important. So go ahead, Model.
Well, I'm unsure exactly what you're asking my theory.
Well, you are making a statement that everything is a lie, and therefore we have no clue what the truth is. So, if that is
Okay.
true, then
Yeah.
then what is
What
your speculation?
I think absolutely, I do think electricity is important, and I think that Tesla was derailed for a reason. Now, what that is, I don't know. I could speculate on a bunch of different things, but I don't think it was merely over who was going to control or electricity, or if it was going to be AC or DC or all the other stuff that comes into that Westinghouse Edison thing.
Yeah,
But Tesla was producing actual real science,
yeah. I mean,
and he
tearing
was
lightning from the sky and shooting it anywhere he wanted to put it. That's what he was doing. Yeah,
and he was basically working with the equivalent of like Wi-Fi
yeah,
back then. And so I think when part of the thing when I hear the word plasma, I start going, "Oh, boy, plasma." But electrical, yeah, I do think that there is something going on in the atmosphere where
Mhm.
Tesla was proving he could pull large quantities of electricity out of the atmosphere. And Tesla was even starting to edge towards uh, the sun and the moon interacting.
Yeah. And of course, he's right. Yeah.
So
Well,
if you have the moon, which is a quarter of a million miles away, and you have a sun that is 93 million miles away, that interaction doesn't jive.
mhm. Now,
So I
may
mean
I?
that was really what I was trying to interject, is that if
I see.
and I don't like to present things and say that I'm not saying what I know is correct, or that anyone should you know just believe what I say, because I don't know any more than I've only been, what, 35,000 feet up in the air in an airplane. That's as high as I've ever been.
Sure. Yeah. And I get your point. And skepticism is important. Maybe I can help you a little bit with your dislike of the word plasma and explain why they call it plasma. Long ago, back in the 19th century, they used the word ether when they were talking about the energies of space, right? And we got away from that word. Ether's even become something
And in
more.
the atmosphere,
And that's
ether.
right, in the
Well,
atmosphere as well. They were talking about the unknown quantity of spatial energy. But of course, it's interesting how esoteric the word ether has become, right? In their attempt to debunk such concepts. But what the reason they call it plasma is because we have those early electrical science guys like Tesla. What they were doing is they were looking at the movement of electricity through space as far as the data that they were getting from their experiments and stuff, and they said it moved like a living thing, and that's why they attached the word plasma to it, right? Because
mhm.
plasma was the human blood. It's the movement of blood in the body, right? So that's why they called it plasma back way back. Was because they thought that the electricity was like a living thing. It was doing things based upon a seemingly intellectual choice. Which of course is ridiculous. It's part of a pattern. The laws of science are dictating what it does. Which
Closer to fluid dynamics. It's
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It is closer to fluid dynamics. And that's why they call it plasma. So you don't have to get so caught up in the word. Just say electrical science is fine, right? But that's why they call it plasma. But it is very fluid in the way it moves, and it's very interesting. And of course, it's completely contradictory to the idea, once again, a sun is something that randomly happens when enough force is at place to create the birth of a sun. It's completely random, right? Whereas when we look at the universe and all the data we get back from the universe, it is showing us that it is not only not random, it is consistently concise in its patterning. It is controlled, even, right? And of course, when you look at electrical sciences are very, very predictable, which is just more confirmation to the point that the electrical sciences are the way we should be moving when it comes to astrophysics or just cosmology in general.
When you also get into a second branch of that none of them want to ever even discuss, and that is the possibility of design. So they all start freaking out.
Well, that's the thing about electrical. It is based upon a very strict and stringent design. Yeah. Now that could just simply be the laws of science itself applying itself to the universe, and therefore you have design. But what we haven't even dived into the aspects of the DNA and all the complexity of that. The simple fact is, the more you study about science, the harder it is to take away intelligent design. It becomes very troublesome. And it's weird because you would think the higher and the more sophisticated the science, the more we'd be getting away from the idea of an intelligent design. But it doesn't do that. It does quite the opposite. So I don't know. What do you? Let's take a minute to talk about that a little bit. What do you guys think about the possibility of intelligent design?
I think it's. I don't think it's a possibility. I'd say it should be the default position if it wasn't for the fact that so many people hate the idea of turning over their reality to a divine being or a creator or a supreme being or just somebody above them. It's human hubris that takes it off the table, not mathematics or science, because we don't
That's
know.
true.
And the more you look into it, especially a lot of mathematicians will tell you, especially high level ones, many of them become creationists of some description, intelligent design, something,
Yeah.
because the math just doesn't add. It's just insane. The numbers, the enormity of what the numbers become, that it's all just chance, that it all just kind of happened.
Yeah.
It's preposterous, actually. It's almost impossible, as much as anything can be impossible in the universe.
Yeah.
So I would say that should be, in my opinion, it should be the default position that all science comes from. And if you want to prove otherwise, you have to prove it scientifically otherwise.
Hmm.
That's how I would look at it, because I don't see any other way it makes sense mathematically, which mathematics is science. It's the purest form of science there is.
You know,
So if
I'd argue-
the
I'd
numbers
argue with
don't
that.
add up, if the numbers don't add up, then what? Then what happens? Well, then you're left with nothing but dogma.
yeah. No, true.
I'd argue with math being a science, though. Absolutely, I would. It's a language.
It is a language. But
Well, what's a science though?
Well, a science is something that you can demonstrate, repeat,
Mhm.
and math is a language. You can lie with math.
you can.
Why do you think language isn't science?
It's a language.
Language is science, is what I'm saying to you.
Yeah, I get that. I'm with you on that.
That's
I'm with you on that.
abstract. It's a different. I'm not trying to make a point that you can't use language to describe science. That's not what I'm saying.
Not what I'm saying.
Language on its own isn't a science.
I am saying language itself is literally a science.
Can you
Yes.
explain that?
I can.
Yeah, I
If a
can.
woodchuck could chuck wood, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Take that.
No, I'm serious. I'd like to hear the explanation, because
What makes a language? What is a language?
What is a method of communication?
What is any word? What is a word?
Spell.
Can just go ahead and explain, because we can get into these questions that have
The reason I'm asking you these questions
tangent.
is because the same things that fundamentally foundationalize everything, which would be everything that we use to describe all of it, science itself, including language, including mathematics, including art, all of that can be explained with science. All of that is a form of science, because it has to be. If science is anything, which all science is the measure of reality, then language is a science.
Then why did they give me a Bachelor of Arts, man?
Okay, now if I'm sitting in a room though with you and Chester and Jimmy, and I put an orange on the table and I point at it and go flurb.
Yeah, I agree.
And now I don't acknowledge you anytime you say orange. I just say flurb. And then one day Chester goes, can I have a flurb?
What is
And
it? Well, we'll know what that means because you've been saying flurb for however long it took Chester to say it too.
But that's not science.
Sure it is.
That's
Why?
all science
But I get his Thunder's point though. What he's saying is cause and effect, right?
Yes.
The foundation of science. Right?
Language is just a measurement of observation. That's all.
Okay, how about the same thing? Now I go into I put the orange on the table and I whack you on the head with a stick. That's cause and effect, right?
That's right.
The only time I will ever know what you want is if you whack me on the head with a stick.
Yeah.
And I'll go, oh, he wants an orange.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an abstract thing, and I understand what you're doing, but if we're talking about physical science.
This is that's there you go. There's the qualifier. You're talking about physical science.
Well, that's what we're talking about, aren't we?
Science, period.
I think
we're not
see
talking
what
about the science of love. We're talking about physical sciences.
Well, that's a physical science.
It is physical science. But let me see if I can't stitch it back in. Let me see if I can't stitch it back in. No, seriously.
No, you're trying to be obtuse here intentionally to not have a conversation. It's frustrating.
Let me sharpen it then.
Are we talking about mathematics or
no?
linguistics?
We're not. We're not. Let me bring it back. I'm going to sharpen the obtuseness. Okay. Let's look at the idea of science. For quite a long time, has been unanimously out to attack and destroy the church. Religion. And I understand why, because the church had so much power and they were trying to wrest power, the Renaissance, all those things that happened. I mean, I get it, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, although everything seems to be taken to the extreme instead of balance and equality. But, that's that. But here's the thing. Now, science assumes that a religious person, a person who believes in intelligent design of some kind, is as dogmatic as the religion is written. Now, there are some. The Islamists, the 27% of Islam that agrees with the terrorist, and the percentage of them, therefore, that would get involved with it, they are dogmatic for sure. But let me take something from my dad, for instance. My father is a religious man. He believes in God. He's a Christian, Northern Baptist, a hard-nosed type. But let me take an interesting thing. Now, I of course, was a young man that was studying all kind of things in university, and of course, the Enuma Elish is the oldest version, well, almost the oldest version of Genesis that we have, right? And I was like, well, Dad, this King James Bible thing that's coming out of the Torah, that was actually written thousands and thousands of years before it, and it's much more detailed and rah, 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 just being a typical jagoff, kid. And my dad answered me so calmly. And he says, yeah, but, it doesn't matter what the story is. It still is talking about the creation. And that's a very fair point. And I think a lot of religious people are that way. They don't really care what dogma they're under. I mean, because religion in itself has other values beyond, the concept of what is God or why are we here. But a lot of religious people don't need the fact that God spoke to Moses. It doesn't matter the names or the idea. It's the concept that God spoke. Right? And I think this is important because a lot of scientists don't understand this. They get caught up in the dogmatic nature of some people and not understand that the majority of religious people don't care about the dogma at all. It's simply the concept that there is something greater than myself. And therefore, when you talk about language as a science, well, now we're talking about the language of God, and we're talking about the fact that God did speak. Right? And intelligent design is a very generic way to say that. And I think this is an important thing to keep in mind. And scientists, I think they convolute themselves when they think that everyone thinks this one way, when in fact it's not true. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. No, I'm not with you at all on this one.
Holy crap! I'm not. I thought that was eloquent, even.
All right. Well, let me.
Well, it was way too long for one thing.
Damn it!
Let me ask Model one question. All right, you're delineating between a science and language. What is a language?
A language is a method to communicate.
science isn't that.
Yeah.
Okay, but see, here's where you're trying to run a circular argument here, and it's
you are. I get it.
I don't understand what we're doing in the conversation when we're talking about space, we're talking about plasma and
Yeah, you're right.
sciences, and now we're getting into esoteric and theological explanations of a language and these.
You're right, model. You are right, and let's stop doing that. You're 100% right. So, but my question is still a valid one, though. What do you think of intelligence design model?
I think it's more likely that that is the case than the randomness of just nothing became something.
Okay, there you go. There you go. What do you think, Slick?
I don't think that the universe is a random event.
It's interesting. Interesting. Let's see what the chat says because they've been going right away, dude. Eric says a lot of rich people got the. We're back on that again. Corona-chan offers a generous reach around. Oh goodness gracious. Sup? 2 + 2 = 4. It used to. Numbers don't lie. I am 10. I'm a 10. Sweet. Okay, guys. I have reached my time. My brain is fried. Okay. Bye, lady. Let's see here. Muslims go boom. Thank you, Curious. Let's see. Roger Heller, Chester, 2020. Let me sharpen it. Henry Rivers sitting on a cake. No, I haven't. I guess I thought the chat had something intelligible to say, but I was wrong. Cult Film says Southern Baptist only, fam. Tanks walk the plank. Okay. Slick had something to say here. Yanks walk the plank. Oh God, there we go. This whole Yankee Southerner thing again. Yanks wank. They're really Southern versus Northern. It's interesting. I am an actual Yankee, just so you know, an actual Yankee. Where everyone outside of America calls every American a Yankee. I take offense to that. Bullet. His grasp has run out.
We're
so
not we're not damn Yankees. Those are New English.
I'm a damn Yankee for sure, and I'm proud of it. All right, I've caught up with the chat. But all right, I'm sorry I asked that question. But let's move on because I think we're getting toward the end of the show here. But
Bullet made a comment that's good there. I think we all think we are special, and we are not.
That's fair. That is fair. Yeah. That is very fair. And I think that's a big problem with the entitlement of today is everyone thinks they deserve an opinion even though they haven't earned it. Yeah.
We're all just cogs and sprockets in the cosmic machine.
Yeah. I don't know. But
hey, can you play that other video before you go? Do you have time for that? It's
sure.
A shorty. It would be in the DMs. It's the
absolutely. Let me get on it here. No, let me go over to. Let me do it here. I'll do it here. Let me see. Twitter. And if you guys have anything you want to talk about as well, please do. I do appreciate you guys coming on and listening to my theories and ideas about science and my trying to debunk the black hole idea because it's just so inane. We don't have any evidence on all the evidence we have points against it. But nevertheless, let me go over here.
So there are no black holes?
We have no evidence whatsoever of any black holes. I do apologize. Let me see. How am I going to do this? I guess I could do no, I guess what I have to do is maybe do this. No.
So I have a question just while you're figuring shit out.
Okay.
It's been told that we can't cross the speed of light barrier according to the physics that we have now.
Yeah.
At least the proponent physics. Do you think that is a false statement? Do you think we will be able to go faster than light?
Well,
at some point.
Seeing as the fact that Einstein's theories on light and the idea that light is constant in a vacuum have been proven to be completely wrong, then the fact that we don't actually understand light kind of throws the whole concept out, doesn't it? Especially because it seems to me the more science that we keep delving into it seems to show that the light is nothing more than the smoke of plasma. Meaning it's a side effect. right? So I don't know how to answer that because it seems that light in what it is and exactly how it functions has been so thoroughly debunked that we kind of need to start from the beginning to understand exactly what it is and what it's doing. So I
So,
can't answer the question. Yeah.
okay, so with that question, because basically all the mathematical gymnastics that create like superstring theory and M
Yeah.
theory
Yeah. Yeah.
to fix the difference between general relativity and quantum mechanics. Do you think that do you think we're gonna have to reevaluate all that and
Yeah.
maybe try to plug in something elsewhere well, we got to. Here's my belief: as a species, if we do not get off planet and start becoming a stellar, and model can disagree with me on this as to whether this is real or not, but a stellar um,
Species.
species as
Yeah.
opposed to a terrestrial one, then we are doomed to extinction eventually. So
Mhm.
I would say that there has to be. We need to focus on that as a species and stop futzing around with ourselves if we can, and get out amongst the stars and see if we can make it a longer lived time that we're around than not, or and maybe evolve into other different things. I mean, who knows? I don't know.
Model.
I'm just a man.
Oh, I don't believe we've been up there yet. And you know that. So that's not a topic that I can even give you a good discussion on.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't think it's if I mean if there's some revelation on the nature of where we live, then I could start to rethink. But if we're the current model is an atmospheric body and floating around a vacuum around a sun that's 93 million miles away. Uh, from I've just I don't at this point. Why aren't we seeing actual concrete evidence of being in space? And this is another one of my videos that I put up in where I say to the audience, I'm interested in your observations and what you think after seeing this, because I don't want to tell you what to think. I want to see what you come up with.
So maybe I should play the video. I will answer the question that's proposed real quickly though. Um, the simple fact that we're starting modern science is based off an error, right? And they have for the past 80 years or so, less than that, say the past 60 years, they have been trying to prove that error. And they keep having to add more and more to it because they cannot bring the math to bear. They can't find the solution. They keep adding and adding and adding and adding, and they become more and more fantastical and mythical in their ideas as they go along. And seeing as that is the fact, then I think we definitely need to start from scratch, dude. And I think that's exactly what the plasma scientists are doing. They're trying to find actual scientific formulae for us to move forward on. So that would be my answer. But let me go ahead and play this. So you go ahead and you can talk over it and tell us what we're looking at here. Go ahead.
You'll probably
No, I
never
just want
make
everyone to
it into
listen and
space in
watch.
your lifetime. But what about after death? Sheffield-based company Ascension Flight will scatter your ashes 22 miles above the Earth's surface for less than £1,000. So, how does it work? Dr. Chris Rose, co-founder and director of the Bonkers Brick Company, took us to one of their Derbyshire launch sites to find out.
What we do is we use large meteorological balloons that take a bespoke scatter mechanism high above the Earth, so we have the blackness of space, the curvature of the Earth and the thin blue line of the atmosphere, and we scatter the ashes of the loved one in front of this beautiful vista and capture all of this on a video experience which is ultimately shared with the customers. Eventually the balloon will be bigger than a two-story house. It will be 15 meters in diameter, and that's the point it will reach its failure point. It will burst, which allows our parachute to deploy and bring our capsule and our mechanism safely down to Earth. I suppose in the true terms of the word weird, it is weird because it's different, it's new and it's bold, and everything that was new and bold in the past has been at one point considered weird. But I think one thing I try and impress upon people when they're talking to us for the first time is that your loved ones are in safe hands.
Chris set up Ascension flights with fellow space nut Dr. Alex Baker after they met at Sheffield University. Since beginning launches in 2018, they've sent 50 people skyward, with another 25 lined up for this year. But Ascension Flights aren't the only company offering extraterrestrial burials. In 2018, US company Elysium Space launched a gram each of 100 people's ashes into the heavens on this SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. After the capsule was ejected, families could track their loved ones' remains until they eventually burned up in the atmosphere.
Huh. Nice catch.
So for the purposes of today's launch, we're not using a genuine human offering. We're going to use a synthetic ash.
And just seat this guy in the stand. A lot of people like to play a little bit of music or something, so we'll kind of, like on a day like this one.
So in the chat, did anyone in the chat, there's several very bizarre things in this video.
Yes, I love it, dude. It's a great catch, model.
They're quite stretchy. People tend to have dealt with the dead.
Do you want me to keep going through this nonsense? I think we kind of...
That's enough.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's enough.
But yeah, dude, that's an awesome catch. And I love how many little catches like that you can find across the internet. People is like, dope, you're getting out of line. You're not following the programming here, right? And let me show you what model's talking about if you didn't catch it. Here we go. I think this will show. First of all, 22 miles is not space. Matter of fact, the International Space Station, which is at 400 miles up, supposedly, is not space either. Also, you would have to be much higher than that to see the actual curvature of the planet based upon the math, just so you know. And I do love how that fisheye lens just doesn't want to cooperate.
15 meters in diameter.
Yeah, whenever it passes that midline, all of a sudden we're living in the hollow Earth.
I know, right? Oh, there it goes. Flat horizon. Oh, no. Oh God! Okay, now we're good. Now we're good. Oh God! There it is. Oh God!
It's new and it's bold, and everything that was new and bold in the past has been at one point considered weird. But
yeah.
I think
Oops. Exactly.
Yeah. Now notice it in the first thing when they open the ashes, they just pour out straight down.
Right.
So essentially, they're dumping your remains in the forest.
That's what they're doing. Yeah. That's what they're doing. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of nonsense.
Why is this organization allowed to operate and say they're sending your loved one into space? And even that second one used a rocket, and they said that the remains just fall back to Earth.
Yeah, because there's not space. But it's a gimmick that people will spend 895 pounds for, I'm sure.
But it's obviously fraud, right?
Obviously.
So why are they being allowed to operate a fraud?
Because all the detail is right there. If you're foolish enough to buy it, well, that's on you, I would say. Let's not take people out of the equation.
Fraudulent business is shut down legally.
Yeah, well. Are you saying they got shut down?
No, it's not that I know of. That Ascension is still going. But it's just very interesting to me. It's like these guys somehow had the connections to pull it off, and they're not stepping on anyone, so they're being allowed to continue and just perpetrate a fraud.
Yeah, and when you get people like Model here that really are very skeptical about space, which I don't blame him at all. Because there's so many things that are done by space people that are right in your face lying to you, and quite obviously lying to you. The simple fact is the math shows you that you have to be way higher than 400 miles to actually see a horizon bend. Right, but yet what we see when people get into airplanes and all of these videos we see, it's because of the bubbling effect, the fisheye lens effect. That's what's giving you a curvature. You're not high enough. 35,000 miles is, 35,000 feet is not enough to see a curvature. I mean, come on, right?
35,000 miles would be.
Yeah, oh, sure, for sure, yeah. But 3,500 feet, 35,000 feet certainly isn't. And of course, if you take your eyes from the bottom of the window where you're looking and just lift them up to the midpoint, you will see a flat horizon. And same thing with this video, which is, very clearly showing you that there is that this whole concept of this curvature of the Earth at 22 miles is
and
nonsense.
that's the point it will reach its
And
failure
but
point.
this
It
is
will
the same
burst,
thing that
which
NASA
allows our
does. This is
parachute
what
to deploy
Tesla
and
did
bring
with their little
our
car.
capsule
Yeah.
and our mechanism
You know, I mean,
safely
it's
down to Earth.
it's constant
Suppose
fraud.
in the true terms
And
of
we
the word
shouldn't
wood,
have to
it
do
is
that
weird 'cause it's
with
different.
4K
It's new and
cameras that are
bold, and
cheap.
everything that
Yep.
was new and bold in the past
Yep.
is
There's
something
no
that
reason to
once
do
was
this.
considered weird.
And there are
But
people who have
I
sent
one
rockets and
thing
stuff
I
with
try and
cameras
impress
and
upon
balloons
people
up
when
much
they're
higher
talking to
than
us for the
this,
first time is
with
that
just
your loved
standard
ones are in
good
safe
4K
hands.
cameras, like
Chris
you
set
mentioned,
up
that show
Ascension
nothing but a
Flight
flat
with fellow
horizon as high as they
spaceman
can
Dr.
go.
Alex Baker after they
So
met at
this is a
Sheffield
problem, and
University.
when you see that they're
Since
obviously
beginning
lying to
launches
you,
in
intentionally
2018,
so,
they've sent 50
then it brings questions up. Well, if they're lying, why are they lying? What's the purpose of the lie? Why do they want us to believe the round Earth? And therefore, what happens? Flat Earth becomes a thing again. Right. And then of course, when you add in the fact that the math, as far as where you should be able to see the horizon and the curvature of the Earth, is clearly wrong. Now that we have all this high tech equipment that lets us to see very far, even through we're breaking through the molecules in the air, which can cause a lot of trouble for you seeing distances, we can get beyond that now with technology. It's kind of a dope moment, right? So this is a problem because they're clearly doing this intentionally to make us think one thing, and then you have to ask why. Yeah.
I already have my video for next week for my segment of "Don't trust NASA. NASA is asshole."
There you go. Sweet. But fair point, dude. Good catch. Good catch, model. And there are more than one of those videos. There are plenty of other ones that inadvertently show it. Like when they had the man who did the highest free jump, they showed it, of
Oh,
course,
the Red Bull jump.
the Red Bull jump. The official video from NASA, of course, had the fisheye lens, which showed this incredible horizon and this round Earth horizon. But then the camera coming out from the inside when he's stepping out, just flat horizon, right?
And the ground completely filling the entire lens and big lakes. It's like, what body of land are you over there, fella?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's true. It's fair point, Thundero. I mean, they do lie to us quite a bit, and I understand people being very skeptical about any information we get at all. What do you think about that?
Well, you should never trust the government ever, no matter what face they put on. Always question the man, because the man will lie to you. The government is,
As a matter of policy.
Yeah, that's
yeah. I
true.
mean,
Yeah.
straight out. Even the low level law enforcement agents, they're all police officers, are told and trained and taught to lie to you constantly. The government will always lie to you because pick a reason, but they will. So why should we trust even the scientific community when it's funded by the government?
Yeah.
Why should we trust, especially not NASA, who we know is pretty much all BS?
Yeah.
They spend unbelievable amounts of money for very little return, yet we're supposed to be convinced that this is a great idea and we need to keep doing it. No, it's because it's a cover for whatever other craziness they're doing.
Yeah. And keep in mind that plasma scientists all over the world question the same thing. What is this nonsense coming from NASA? So, just to add on to the pile of my dissertation. Slick.
What do you want?
There he is.
What do I want? I want the fact that we get so much information, like the video that a model just put out, that shows us that they are clearly lying to you. They're being deceptive, and that it makes it very difficult for people to believe anything that comes out, and therefore convolutes the situation, which might be the whole point, dude.
Well, maybe it is. But until somebody gives me a legitimate reason for such a massive hoax, I'm going to err on the side of caution.
That's fine. Well, why do you think they're lying so clearly and so often? What's the purpose, you think?
Well, like I said, I think that there are probably factors why people do things. As to the massive hoax of is the Earth flat or not, Well, I
I'm
mean,
not even on
I
about
don't.
that. I'm just talking about NASA's in general fact that they lie to us all the time. I'm more about that than I am at going to the extreme of flat Earth.
Well, I mean, are we talking about things like again, I go back to the fact I have used a telescope for multiple things. All right, a very high-powered telescope. Unless you want to believe the telescope itself was is designed to trick those who are using it. I can see the turning of Mars. All right, I've seen it. I've watched it. All right, I know the features of it. You can do the same thing for any body where you can see the surface. Now Venus is different because as it turns around, there's just roiling clouds and stuff. But it's harder to tell.
Well, it's very young.
It isn't.
It's a very young planet, so.
I
Those
mean, but
those telescopes, though, they don't give you that clear view. You get an oscillating light.
no. When you get a place of good seeing, you can see really well. We're not talking down, if you're up in the top of a 13,000 foot mountain and it's a very clear day, it's very clear. You can see features on the planet itself as it moves around, and you can
Yeah.
see the Terminator line of where the sun hits and where the darkness hits. You can see the curvature of those planets. Now, I am of the opinion that if those are things I can tell, we can see that in the moon very clearly. And now they're like, well, you can only see one side. Well, okay, there are reasons for that, and I guess people are often say, well, isn't that just a bunch of sophistry to say there isn't the other side of the moon? Well,
Yeah, well, the problem
you
is
can see the curvature of the moon. You can see it every day. I mean, that's a sphere up there. That's not anything else. That is a sphere.
Well,
you can see the sphere of the sun. Now, if everything else out there is a sphere, all right, spherical, it's not a true sphere. There's some oddness to it. I would assume, now that's what happens when you assume that I too am on a sphere, right? And you can see the curvature. I mean, if you don't want to believe the photography from the moon because nobody actually was on the moon, well, that's fine. However, we can tell that night comes around the country, around the world, and we can talk to people on the other side of the world that will tell you what it looks like outside.
I can. I'm in Japan. But can I throw the entire monkey into the gears, if you wouldn't mind? Why then can you explain so many observations from normal people where they can see straight through the moon and the stars beyond it?
I don't know. I've never had that happen to me, but I assume certain people see all kinds of things.
Okay, we're going to apply drugs to the matter. All right, awesome. I'll take that. Um, it is interesting how we always get onto this topic. It's
or
model's
mental
fault.
incapacity, or other things.
Yeah.
When people say things that most people don't see. All right. When I look up the moon with a good set of binoculars on a good day, you can see the rest of the moon, the other side of it sometimes, while you see the crescent or the gibbous part of it or a half
Oh,
moon.
you can see it
And
all the
and you
time.
can
You
see
don't
it.
even need
All right.
binoculars. Yeah.
What I'm saying is you can see the body up there.
Yeah.
So when somebody says to me, how can you can see through it? Well, I don't know. I don't know what state of mind you were in.
Now, this is on my screen. This is an actual photograph from Lowell Observatory of Mars.
Yep.
Now, Jimmy? Is this kind of what you recall seeing, or did you see better than this?
It's sharper. The Keck is a much better observatory than it's bigger. It's a bigger mirror
Praise Keck.
than Lowell. So and if you want to talk about the Atacama down in Chile has a really good resolution as well. The drier the place, the better you're going to get.
I love the oceans, though. The oceans are awesome. We should talk about more about that.
To look at these because they're not available. You just don't get access to it, and that's what I always wonder. What's the big secret? Why don't we have these? Why don't we have these wonderful images, video? It doesn't make sense to me that it's not available.
Well, I mean, you can go look around. I mean, I've seen some pretty clear images. Now, the best are from the Hubble. Now, you can believe or not in the Hubble, but I mean,
the Hubble doesn't have a camera on it, though. It has instruments. That's
Yeah,
that's
but you can see stuff from the Hubble. I mean, they make images.
But you can't see a photograph. It doesn't take an image with a CCD. It takes data, puts it together into an image.
That's what any camera does, though. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but a camera, a CCD is different than like celluloid. All right,
sure,
it interprets light information and then it reproduces it through a mathematical equation that through ones and zeros and gives you that image. Whereas if you use an actual camera, that's something that's taking the image and burning it onto celluloid. And the resolution now with high-end digital cameras is much more resolved than even 70 millimeter, which is extremely resolved. But most people don't, fly around with a 70 millimeter camera because you're running through tons and tons of celluloid. It's a pragmatic sort of thing. It's a logistical thing. I don't know. I've seen pictures, resolved pictures, of late that are pretty resolved. Back in the day in the 90s, they weren't as good, but you could tell the features and the movement of the planet. You could tell where Olympus Mons was, and you could tell where Mariner Valley was. I mean, you can if you know what you're looking at. They're huge features. I mean, Mariner Valley is like 5 times the size of the Grand Canyon, and it's on a much smaller planet. And Olympus Mons is humongous.
It is. Yeah. Here, I put on the screen here from the Keck Observatory. This is an image of Titan. So I couldn't find one on Mars, oddly enough. It's weird.
Yeah, no, I don't see how you can look at that and come to any other conclusion than you're looking at some kind of a body that is emitting light.
Yep. I get you. Yeah. Which is a whole nother conversation, actually. And of course, the idea of planets radiating their own energy and therefore their own light makes perfect sense. A lot of times they try to talk about the sun's light as bouncing off and stuff, but it might more be the electromagnetic energized field that we're seeing. And Titan, of course, keep in mind, does have an electromagnetic field. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can.
There are reasons why the planets look a certain way. They're reflecting light. They're not putting off light. Their colors are there for a reason because they're bouncing light. This is stuff we can prove just by how we see things every day. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to call into question those things and that science, you can do so. But these are things that are observable. The reason why green looks a certain way and red looks a certain way, and a whole prismatic, you can see how prisms work and how they can be dioptered. I mean, this is not a new science whatsoever. So to say that those are objects out there that are putting off light, well, they're reflecting light, if you want to call that putting off light.
You know what? Come on, you know what I mean. All I saw was that you see an image that appears to be emitting light.
Well, I mean, we're talking about things that are theoretical, for things that I pretty much think are categorically provable at this point, at least for like close interstellar stuff. Now, that stuff that's way out past the Oort cloud, there's weird stuff going on out there, and who's to say? I mean, but this is stuff that's within our purview, and I still think that we have traveled off the planet. Now, if you don't want to believe that, that's fine, and I'm not going to call you on it because I've never flown off planet, so I'm taking people's words. But I mean, to keep the hoax up, that would be literally thousands of people keeping this hoax going. I'm not sure the point of that.
I am kind of curious why I can't find a picture of Mars from the Keck Observatory. Why is that? I should be able to find that easily.
And that's all I'm saying, Jimmy. I'm not saying that your experience isn't valid, or my question has always been with how cheap it is to take an actual photograph and a video in HD,
which they never
do. Why do we not have this stuff? Yeah. We've paid for it for decades.
Not even
I want my pictures.
Earth. Not even of Earth, dude.
Yeah, I want my pictures. Weird. We've paid billions for it, trillions.
Yeah, no, it's fair point. I am really surprised though that I have no image of from the Keck Observatory of Mars. I have Titan, but not Mars. That is bizarre.
That is weird. That is weird. That's I will grant you that. That's really weird. I just looked it up and I'm like, where the hell are they?
It doesn't make
Because
sense.
I know I looked at them, but I know I looked at them through the telescope. I looked at a lot of stuff. You have to schedule time up there. It's
well, let me do a quick
quite
check
the
here.
revolving door.
Mars through a telescope. Let's check this out. Mars is big, bigger than nears. Okay, that doesn't help me. Seeing Mars with a telescope, 1 minute astronomer. I would love to see a picture of Mars that clear. People have telescopes that get this kind of image. That right there proves a lot.
Show me what you're doing.
I did a simple search. Mars through a telescope.
I can't see what you're looking at.
Oh, well, you got to look on the main screen then. I'll come over here and I'll share, I guess. Let me just do that. That's simpler. Ooh, I don't want that up. Here we go. Here we go. And there you go. All right, let me come back over here. There we go. Yeah, so I mean that's pretty.
Yeah, that's about it right there.
Yeah, so that's pretty nice right there. It doesn't say. Let me see. We have the various diameters here. February 20, 2012. UTC. I don't know what that means. University of something maybe.
It's the time, probably.
Nah, you're probably right. Yeah.
The
see, this is what I'm more used to right here. This is what I'm more used to. This right here.
Yeah, I mean, and that's when you resolve in, you put in it depends on the size of the mirror and the lens. And some of the biggest one in the world, I'm blanking on it. They used multiple mirrors, and so there was some blank spots if you're looking like deep space, but like local stuff resolved quite well. I mean,
well, here now look at this one. This is very interesting. This is the 8-inch Orion Newtonian telescope picture of Mars right here. It's interesting.
Yeah, and why aren't there thousands? What are you trying to save space on your SD card? Take some photos.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that, dude. Especially the fact that we have no actual picture of the Earth. You could tell me you send up all these rockets and you can't give me one damn picture of Earth at a distance. That's nonsense, dude. I don't get that. Yeah, but it is interesting looking at these telescope pictures, though. It's quite clearly a planet, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I was saying. Like when I see spheres out there, and you can tell what they are, I would assume we're on a sphere too. Now, again, you can make an argument for many things. So
let's take a look at this.
Yeah, and to be very clear, one of the downfalls of making an outlandish statement of that I think space is a farce is that everyone goes, "Oh, you stupid flat earther." It's like calling someone a racist or a homophobe or an anti-Semite. It's meant to shut down.
2003, that one, 2003. That's pretty close to what I was looking at.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We got the Lowell Observatory, 1971, a 24-inch refractor, and then the other two are 10
they don't
inches.
have any Keck stuff. I'm surprised they don't have any Keck stuff. I don't know what.
It is weird.
Type in Google Keck, Chester, K-E-K.
No. K-E-C-K.
K-E-C-K. I did, actually. I'm not doing that. Keck images. Yeah, they got Jupiter over here.
Now, Jimmy, is that a university telescope?
No. It's
right here.
It's affiliated. It's affiliated with multiple universities, but it's in Hawaii, so like it's direct affiliation.
I'm sure it's owned by the Vatican.
Caltech. It's direct affiliation with Caltech. Strangely enough, so at least what it was when I was there. But I mean, like if you go up there, it's like you're because you're on top of a volcano there, and it's way up there, and it's like this big hump.
Stingy with the images, aren't they?
They are.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised they don't have more stuff up there because it's a working it's been working for years, you know. So
It has. It was put up in the 90s, and of course, keep in mind this is Mauna Kea on the Big Island, and just
Mhm.
recently we had Jason Momoa up there protesting it because how dare you do science? We Polynesians, we have faith and belief. Get out of here. Yeah, he did that, by the way. That's your freaking Aquaman. All right. Yeah, go check that out.
Who should be Lobo? But anyway,
Yeah, it's fair.
You know what we need to do? We need to have a society-wide push to let independent teams have access to this equipment. Now, if you need a supervisor there to make sure no one's going to push the wrong buttons, I understand that. But they need to start. These are taxpayer-funded projects.
yeah.
People need to start having access to this stuff. Not
No, I
having
agree.
someone give
I
you.
don't have a problem with that.
This is Caltech, by
whatsoever.
the way. But let me just check something real quick. The WM Keck Foundation is really what put a lot of money toward this. And let me see if I can track down who these guys are. An American Charitable Foundation supporting William M. Keck. It was founder and president of Superior Oil Company. Okay. I'm trying to find a connection to the Vatican because they own a lot of observatories, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm not finding it though.
Well, the one thing I could tell you, I was there for 2 weeks, and we were, you know, you can go. It's one of those things like try to go skiing and surfing in the same day, but when it's covered over, you just have to wait for it open up, and then everybody goes up there and use it. They get in their line, they get in the queue,
Sure.
and you know, and then usually you have something you're going to observe within a certain pocket of the universe, and then you're going to send your data back to whichever institution you're doing it for. But when you're there, you're kind of, if you're in the place, not underfoot too much, you get a look at what people are looking at, which is kind of exciting because they were seeing fun things, and you know, it was before. And the Hubble at the time had just been fixed from, you know, getting its set of glasses on it, and you know, a lot of stuff was being seen at the time. And since then, we've seen all kinds of things and observed stuff through, you know, using the science to figure out what's out there. Now, you can believe this is all bullshit. You know, I'm all for that. All for your own speculating.
There you
But
go. Grammar.
I think that putting installations like this in there just for show seems to be, I don't know what they would do.
Oh no, it's not show. They're looking. They're looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been incredibly convoluted, that's for sure. You know, me personally, I think the planets are there, and I even think we've been to space. I just think that they're so desperate to hide certain things that for whatever reason, it could even be a beneficial one for all I know, that they've completely killed their credibility, right? But I'll make an admission to you, Slick. I've never, ever in my entire life ever looked through a telescope.
Oh man, it's fun.
I would advise that if you can, just go, if you know somebody with a good one. I'm not talking like the barrel ones are better. So, you know.
Yeah, you get like one of those big, like 10-inch or 8-inch Meads. Even those, it's amazing.
You can see things. I mean, you can see Andromeda, and if you have anything that has a time lapse, it'll pick up light. Stuff will come out of the cosmos that is hidden because of how far away it is.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, holy shit. And that's in just us looking at it with simple instruments, at least for now.
Well, you know, I have a mountaintop park here. And seeing as I do live in a village that doesn't have many people, so there's not a lot of light anyway. I actually got a perfect place. It's completely dark to do it. I just have never looked through a telescope. How about you, Thunder? You ever looked through a telescope?
Not since I was a kid.
Yeah, I see. I didn't even do it then.
You know, a lot of people, unfortunately, have never been in an area without light pollution to see what's up there with the naked eye.
That's fair.
It's astonishing.
Yeah, if you can get a chance to do that, I would do it. You know, get a good telescope, or if you can rent one or whatever. Go to a nice place and make sure that the weather is not going to be bad, all that stuff, and you get beautiful seeing. And then if you can have a recording device that you can open the shutter for a little bit, do that. Open the shutter, let the light infuse for about, I'd say 30 seconds to a minute, and then shut it, and then look at the image that you create, and you'll be like, holy cow. And if you're lucky enough to orient yourself onto the Andromeda, Andromeda takes up about 2.5 times the size of the moon in the night sky. It's a large object. It just looks like a smudge because it's so far away.
Well, there is a little teeny observatory near me. I mean, literally, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes away. So maybe I should go schmooze them with some shochu.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, interesting. So we definitely come on our 2-hour mark here, guys. So
I have a question for you, Chester. It's really important.
Uh-huh.
Do you use toothpaste that has wasabi in it?
What?
Ugh.
No.
Do you use toothpaste? Because I was watching a thing about actual wasabi, not the fake horseradish that's dyed green, and it said that a lot of Japanese put it in their toothpaste because of its antiseptic quality. So I figured, yeah, Chester would be the guy who's brushing his teeth with wasabi.
I didn't know. I might have and not even known it. Because I do buy local toothpaste, but I never even thought about it, dude. Never even thought about it. Yeah. And wasabi does have antiseptic properties. It most certainly does. But it's actually not as hot though. I do prefer horseradish because it's much spicier. Wasabi's kind of like a soft spice with a lot of sweet. But that's interesting. Anyway,
most
guys.
of the restaurants you go into, when you get the little peas of wasabi, it's horseradish that's been dyed green.
It's true. It is true. Yeah,
because it's a very rare
Oh, it's
root.
expensive. Yeah, it is. You know what the most awesome thing to do though? If you can get real wasabi, especially the fresh root, which you grind yourself, take it and eat it with your steak.
I'm sure.
It's amazing, dude. It's really, really good.
Horseradish on a good steak is good.
It's true. Prime rib. Yeah, absolutely. But wasabi has, like I said, it's not as spicy as horseradish, and it has a sweetness to it. And it's really, really good. We sometimes, the whole family will go out to this restaurant. Like once a year, twice a year. It's a bit pricey, so we don't go very often. But the whole family will go, and they have just amazing Japanese steak, wagyu, with the wasabi, real wasabi. He comes to the table and he grinds it right there for you, right in front of you. It's really tasty. But anyway, guys, it is definitely the end of the show. 2 hours on it, and 2 easy hours to cover, by the way. I thought that was pretty cool. I do hope that my dissertation made you at least curious, that you might want to go check some stuff out. I obviously am a prophet of the Church of Plasma, I guess. But I certainly think that I want to follow scientists who are trying to do real science. That's more interesting to me. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we had some counterpoints and we had some interesting conversations. So I'm going to let each of these guys make their closing statement, and then we're going to get out of here. Do keep in mind though that tomorrow, of course, is our 9 o'clock show, our Comics News Today show. I'm not sure if we have a guest tomorrow. I don't think we do, but we'll just get into the news that's going on around us, of course. And I do believe that. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but not only did we have the new Warriors come out, which was ridiculous, which I still think is bait, but they also came out with they're bringing what's that Latino lesbian's name again?
America
Chavez, right? They have American Chavez, and they're also coming out with another woke book. I mean, super woke book.
Children of the Atom.
Children of the Atom, X-Men. So 3 in a row, bam, 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 right? New stuff. And did you see the comment that Marvel came out with? This is going to save the comic stores. They said that shit, dude. Anyway, we're going to be talking about that tomorrow, I guarantee you, and amongst other things, I'm sure. And then, of course, we have the rest of the week. If you guys enjoy D&D and you want to come watch our game, which Bob is officiating, and I get to actually play. I'm playing basically, effectively, a Terminator. So that's going to be fun. But nevertheless, thank you guys very much. So let me start with Slick. And I'm going to end with Model, and I'm going to let Model namaste us out of here today. So, Slick, go ahead and give us your closing comments.
All right, so I'm glad you guys put up with my naysaying and being a skeptic.
Yeah.
However, if you want to get a hold of me, you can find me on Twitter at Slick Jimmy Love. You can find my channel at Slick Jimmy Speaks tomorrow after Chester's comic book news. We'll be doing the Cheesecake Challenge at 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, which our theme is gargoyles who are being turned into stone by the day, caught in a compromising position.
Ooh.
Female gargoyles. Anyway. And finally, I do have a comic book that is still in demand on Indiegogo called Little Girl Lethal. If you want to go check it out, it's still there. If you want to pick it up, sexy, violent, fun, and craziness. There you have it. So that's me.
Sweet. And dude, if we all agreed, this wouldn't be any fun at all. Thundero? Thundero?
Yo. Yeah, I'm here. I was falling asleep. This show is one of the most boring ones we've done yet.
Oh, God.
It's just. I think we've done this topic enough. We need to stay away from it. But yeah, I'll be here tomorrow most likely. I'm basically in quarantine now with a lot of the people in America. So my state went on lockdown, or goes on lockdown tomorrow night or something like that. And other than that, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Sweet. And do keep in mind that the chat demanded we do Space 2.
Yeah, but the chat are idiots. We've established this, Chester.
I love you, Chad. I didn't say that. Thundero's bad guy. All right. Well, thank you guys very much, and we'll make a decision. What should we do next week, guys? Something different for sure.
I don't know. John Dillard said something about talking about QAnon. That would be interesting.
Ooh, QAnon. What's that?
You don't know what the whole Q thing is?
I guess not. What is it?
It's well, it used to be just an anonymous poster that had a trip code on the chans, and he would drop these cryptic messages. Well, it's grown into a cult.
The scavenger hunt guy.
Well, it's all about politics and the deep state and all this stuff.
I don't know anything about that. What's it called? QAnon?
QAnon.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I'm gonna have to go look into it. Yeah, we could do that. John Dillard wants to come and talk about politics? No. Interesting. Well, we'll make a decision and see what we do next week. We'll definitely do something different.
It's definitely tinfoil. There's no question about it.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, I'll look into it and I'll see if there's some meat there. Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. And Model's going to take us out.
All right. In this time of pandemic where the human race is at the end of its life, and be cool to everybody. Don't hoard. You don't have to hoard.
Namaste. Namaste. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. And
unless you're going to hoard like, Humongous and Mad Max, then hoard like that. It's awesome.
That is fair. That is fair. That is fair. Later.
Bye-bye.